It's the Get Foxy Show. Once again, Terry Fox here, this time with Dr. Nidia Diaz. Nidia, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today.
It's quite an honor. Thank you very much, Mr. Fox.
You bet. Well, you're an acupuncturist. I'm an acupuncturist. We are Chinese medicine practitioners.
Woohoo!
This is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this show, is because we've got some things in common. I study aesthetic, facial, cosmetic acupuncture. You're also schooled in this as well. And what drew me to ask you to be on this show was I found out that you are a rare practitioner in Hirudotherapy. Can you tell the listeners what that is and how that all plays into what you're doing?
Well, Hirudotherapy, not to shock everyone, but it's live leeches. Live, wriggly, very beautiful, gentle leeches. And they've been used since the dawn of time as a form of medicine and currently are FDA approved as a medical device. So what I've done is I've combined the tool of this bioinjectable, let's say, on top of acupuncture points to create really amazing results.
How in the world did this come about? Did you, when you were growing up, did you think you were going to become an acupuncturist who worked with leeches, or how did this all fall into place for you?
Well, I grew up in New York, and Chinatown was one of my favorite places to go exploring. And I had already like just imagined, life as a physician ever since I was little, massaging my dad's feet every night. And the mystique of Eastern medicine just, interested me. And my name Nidia being, similar to the word India, also led me to just, that sort of Eastern culture. I really enjoyed that aspect. And, when I found my calling, I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm totally into Oriental medicine therapies and what have you.
And did you end up going to a specific school in New York, or where did your path lead you?
I went to the second oldest acupuncture school, which was in Pinellas Park, Florida. And luckily we had 3 out of the 300 PhD professors in the world that were doctors of Oriental medicine with that sort of PhD level of training. So I felt really lucky that I got to, complete my Doctor of Oriental Medicine degree, those 4 years at that school. And afterwards, I did still feel like I needed a little bit more. So I decided to make a journey to Asia and travel to over 25 foreign countries in search of, quote unquote, the cure. And I brought back leeches.
That to me is absolutely amazing. You'd think, the way it sounds is, okay, I'm going to go out to these other countries and really sit at the feet of some masters and learn amazing knowledge. And it comes down to leeches.
Yep. That's how it went.
That's so brilliant. So why is it that leeches are so good for aesthetic and facial acupuncture? How do the two mesh?
Well, they are FDA approved for venous congestion. And the reality is that they suck up 80% lymph fluid, not blood, when they feed. It's only a little bit of blood. So with aesthetics, you have a lot of signs of aging that have to deal with lymphatic stagnation, like double chins, sagging jowls, that bloated sort of moon face, all of that. So by applying these medicinal leeches, you get to literally drain the excess fluid that surrounds like the jawline, the neck area. You can even see a difference in the puffiness underneath the eyes and above the eyelids, just because you have less lymphatic stagnation. So for aesthetics, I think it's amazing.
That's huge. This is interesting to me. With my background, when we talk a lot about aging, we talk in Chinese medicine about blood stagnation as one
Right.
of the big causes. And so immediately I was thinking, well, wow, okay. Well, if the leeches are drawing blood, but I mean, in this case, fluid, lymphatic fluid and blood, what we're seeing is more of a movement and release of that old fluid, which then allows new fluid to get in and nourish the tissue. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. And it has within its own saliva hyaluronic acid, a ton of like different, expensive ingredients you would find in like cosmetic lines of creams. So over 100 different biochemicals in the saliva can really penetrate and promote collagen, which is amazing. So you drain the face, and then because you've nourished that area with fresh blood and along with the saliva of the leech, it is very regenerative.
Oh my goodness. So I'm guessing, well, I shouldn't say I guess. I would like to know what your opinion on Botox would be. I mean, it sounds like if you're using these leeches and they're creating these different things, I don't think you'd be that high on Botox, but I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
Well, the leeches don't take care of wrinkles. So Botox definitely has their place. But because I'm a holistic kind of gal, I just feel that it definitely is almost like a prison in so many ways, because not only do you have to keep on doing it and paralyzing your muscles, but there's research saying that they've been saying that it removes empathy, that has some sort of effect on your emotional intelligence, because you cannot make these expressions of concern or frustration, that therefore your body doesn't signal those sort of receptors in your brain to feel empathy. So that is very concerning, because as you know, in Chinese medicine, emotions, you need to keep them healthy to definitely improve and maintain your health.
Yes,
So that
yeah, that's something I preach to my patients a fair amount, is the idea that emotions need to be expressed, and that when they aren't, they kind of lock themselves within the tissue and write these lines on your face. And the Botox is interesting because it doesn't necessarily allow for that expression. And when we don't express and we don't feel those things, then we can't let that energy move through us and process it completely. So then it becomes kind of lodged there. And that can create its own sorts of issues, I think.
I do too. So I think for emotional purposes, you definitely could benefit from not using Botox, and instead I prefer microneedling for the fine lines on the forehead and, around the jawline or the mouth line. It's not as effective as quick as Botox, but definitely for removing fine wrinkles and lines, that's my go-to, along with the leeches.
Amen to that. I just recently, when was that? That was last fall. I think it was last fall, 2019. I
Okay.
received some training in microneedling as well,
Oh, great.
from Diana Horowitz and her company. And she's an acupuncturist who teamed up with another gal who's an acupuncturist and an esthetician. And so they worked out a style of microneedling that includes traditional Chinese medicine theory, and it seems to be really effective. So I'm excited to start putting that to more use. I was just getting ready to get rolling with it when the virus hit.
Right.
And so everything
Right.
shut down. So I haven't quite gotten around to really getting in on that yet, but I'm excited to start bringing that in because I really do think microneedling is very, very helpful in those cases.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Well, you definitely have time because the fall is the best time for microneedling. You know, avoiding direct sunlight is really important for recovery, not to damage those immature collagen cells that are forming. So I think you're going to probably hit it at the right time. Fall and winter is where you see most people really receive and benefit from treatment.
And why do you feel that is?
Because, I mean, I've even experienced it myself with microneedling. If you get a little bit of sun, you will hyperpigment and start getting little freckles and little dots, completely what you don't want with microneedling. So, you know, I live in Florida and I really don't offer microneedling in the summertime because I don't want to give that risk to my patients. And, you know, they do this wonderful treatment and then it's sabotaged by, you know, a half hour in the sun, you know?
That's interesting. I had heard through the schooling that I'd had that applying certain things like vitamin C serum immediately after microneedling can cause issues, but I hadn't heard that direct sunlight could be much of an issue regarding that.
Oh, yes.
That's really
Yes.
good information to know. And
Yes, absolutely.
I wonder if this is something that's taught to estheticians as well.
I think that's probably, you know, something that is part of the aftercare, you know, use sunblock, but I just prefer, you know, doing it at a time where you're not going to really be wanting to go to the beach and having to reapply sunblock religiously and make sure you're out of the sun, you know? So overall, yeah, fall, as you know, is the lung skin time where it's I guess at risk more because of the dry weather and what have you, and lung being, you know, damaged by dryness. But I also think it's a time where there's a lot more opportunity to kind of boost that function of lung and skin. But you've got to be careful, you know, applying nourishing oils to help it, you know, protect it from the dryness and what have you. But a great time.
Yes, indeed. I've got a what I call a fall lung tonic that
Oh, cool.
I recommend to my patients. It's all Chinese herbs that they can take in the fall to help tonify the lung and the large intestine. And then, of course, that comes through in the skin as well. You mentioned aftercare. Now you got me curious. I'm like, what is the aftercare? And really, maybe I should talk about what is the procedure like when you go in to receive the facial work with the leeches? What is that procedure like? What does it involve? What does it entail? What kind of aftercare is involved with that? How does that all play out?
Well, it's interesting because I like my patient to be comfortable. So for the first time, I don't usually start with their facial rejuvenation treatment. I make sure that it's a simple treatment that they don't get overwhelmed with because it is a live animal that's about to bite you. So, you know, I think it's more mentally challenging for a lot of people because physically I have had a ton of times where people are like, "Did you put it on yet? I don't feel anything." Because their anesthesia is so strong. That's why people don't even notice when they're swimming in a pond that they even have leeches on them until they get out. So the first time is really more of like, let's challenge your mental obstacles here and fears. And I just place one single leech in one of the two main areas for detoxification, which is either the tailbone or the navel. And depending on how well they respond, then that kind of gives me an idea of how many more leeches to use. Of course, depending on where they have a lot of stagnation is where the other points that I choose as well. Like if they have, you know, a lot of fullness in their jawline, then it would definitely be around those areas.
And then as far as aftercare goes.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So aftercare, is basically bandaged up for anywhere from 6 to 12 hours of continuous drainage. So I use thick absorbent padding and make sure that it's fixed in a proper place, that they don't have to change it. It's pretty huge, cotton bandaging. And afterwards, about 24 hours or so, they will probably have no signs other than a scab in the shape of a Y where the leech bite was.
Okay. Are these fairly noticeable, or do they fade? How does that work?
So depending on your skin type, so I make sure that the patient doesn't have any, risk of keloid scarring, even though leeches have been used to remove a lot of the inflammation and swelling from keloids. It can cause a scar. So it's important to make sure that that person doesn't have those risk factors, as well as choose points that are very, very inconspicuous. So with facial rejuvenation, I prefer using points behind the ear so you don't see anything that's like, physically like the Mercedes-Benz symbol kind of scarring. That could be a potential. They usually heal within a week or two, but some people, tend to heal longer and could take anywhere for a few months.
Okay, well, that's definitely good to know. Because I had watched the video that you have on your website, and listeners, I'll link this in the show notes to your appearance on Ripley's Believe It or Not, and the gal that received the leech on her face there, and then you also did essentially what looked to be like a vampire facial for her.
Correct.
And that to me was fascinating. Because usually, if folks are doing the microneedling and then they get the blood draw for the vampire facial and then they spin the plasma and then they put all the constituents on their face.
Right.
You've got all that right there with the leech.
Well, unfortunately, I have tried it using the leech blood after microneedling, but it causes too much of a healing crisis. So the only thing that I prefer using with microneedling is PRP. Vitamin C, hyaluronic acid even, if it's just it's less riskier and more beneficial for the patient to just use either PRP or just saline when they're doing their microneedling, because of the risk of granulomas and all that sort of adverse side effects that could possibly be. So I wish I could use the leech blood, but it just doesn't work out. PRP is the only thing to do after microneedling.
You bet. Well, that makes complete sense. And we always want to do the safest things for our patients. And so in this video, I saw that you hadn't done microneedling with this gal. And
right.
Just applied the blood directly to the undamaged skin.
Correct. So even just applying it on the skin without any sort of skin, microneedling holes or anything, just like a topical mask, your skin looks so amazing for days on end that it somehow has some cocktail of enzymes that just really, really make it look like you've had some sort of resurfacing. And they've been doing that procedure from, the ancient Japanese geishas to Marie Antoinette. That blood mask is very rare, but it is a form of ancient beauty.
That is absolutely amazing to me. And I certainly am curious in learning more about it. That's for darn sure.
Good.
We're going to switch this up a little bit, Nidia.
Okay.
See the question I ask all my guests. And that is, what does Foxy and being Foxy mean to you, Nidia?
I think Foxy means to be brave, to be 100% fearless, and really just kind of be wild.
And What, I guess
Okay, and
say,
how would I say that in my life?
sure.
Like how would I apply that in my life?
Yes.
Is basically I had the opportunity to, settle down, and I didn't. I decided that I was going to, face my fears of the unknown and fly to all these countries for over 7 years, live out of a backpack, just be wild in the sense of letting the unknown lead me to just more and more experiences. And so while my friends and family were concerned that I wasn't establishing my practice and doing, the textbook, common sense sort of, standards of accomplishments, I felt that having experiences was much more important than anything material. And I think Foxy really means, for me, enjoying life as wild as you can possibly dream of.
So when there have been times in your life where you haven't felt so foxy,
Yeah.
how have you gone about reclaiming that?
Well, in my personal experience, I feel that if I didn't have leeches in my life, I would be a very, very sad and different person. Because whenever I feel stagnant, like I'm actually going to be doing a treatment the end of this weekend, like just kind of those routine, life gets the best of you. You don't keep balance as much as you should. I have leeches to help me detoxify when I'm feeling, overweight or, stagnant or what have you. And so I really credit that tool to so much of my vitality. And I don't know what I'd do without them.
And who in your world kind of embodies foxiness nowadays?
You mean someone I personally know, or someone
you personally know, somebody you see in the media? It could be a fictional character.
Exactly. That's a good question. I'm so sorry. I'm thrown off for a moment
No
because I
worries.
forgot her name, but her image is in my brain. They call her the AOC. Cortez?
Alexandria
Yes,
Ocasio-Cortez.
it's such a mouthful. I can't believe I forgot it, but there you go. I feel like she's the foxiest lady on the planet because she's really driving so much of, women's rights of being, reckoned with in a respectable manner. And so much props go to her in my book.
That's fantastic. How can people learn more about your work and what you do? Where can they go to find more information?
Oh, my website, gobeyondwellness.com. Please feel free to contact me. I'd be happy to, reach out to anybody on Skype and what have you, Zoom. Be happy to help.
And do you just work primarily with the cosmetic side of things, or are you doing more other therapeutic work with the leeches?
Oh yeah, definitely therapeutic work with the leeches. Their most researched condition that they've been really proved to be a successful device to use for is osteoarthritis of the knee. So I've helped people avoid total knee replacements, and those leeches can drain, and somehow in their saliva there's an antibacterial that could kill any sort of for example, osteoarthritis is kind of like an emptiness syndrome, some degeneration. And the theory is that bacteria gets into that joint and causes inflammation and stiffness. So by placing that leech, a lot of knee pain can be treated really well. And it's not a cure. I mean, there is going to be a time when you need another session, but I tend to see patients every once or every 2 years. So I think the results are pretty cool.
That's pretty amazing. And then is it the same with the facial work as well?
The facial work holds, but it's not as long. I'd say depending on how, frequent you fill up with toxic lymph fluid, you know, I would say every 6 months to a year is a nice kind of like routine treatment. Because I've even had a patient who had the beginnings of Bell's palsy, and she had a crooked smile and there was more swelling on that side of her face. And with leeches, she got her smile back like correctly, and it helped take the pressure off that nerve that was filling up. So I'd say not only aesthetically pleasing are the leeches, but they definitely will help detoxify and maintain health.
No kidding. I had Bell's palsy when I was 10 years old. I don't know if my mom would
Wow.
have let anybody put a leech on my face, but it's a possibility.
Would have
I'd
probably
have gone
worked
for it.
well. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I've tried to convince some of my Bell palsy patients still, you know, I know a lot of people are scared about, you know, a live worm biting you, but only if they got through the first time, they would just be, you know, putting them in their mouths, like not a big deal.
Well, I think by having these conversations, we can help kind of take a little bit of the stigma out of it. I think, and it's similar to acupuncture. There's so many people that are spooked of needles, and yet once
Right.
they receive that acupuncture the first time, then they go, "Oh,
That's it.
that wasn't bad." And I am almost 99.9% sure it is the exact same when it comes to the leeches.
True. Very true.
Out of curiosity, can you tell me a little bit about, say, one of the more um, impressive transformations that you've seen when it comes to the facial work using the leeches?
I'd say, especially for women who are much like, like say over 70, you know, the transformations that I've done there was just like one session, like 1 hour later, they look like they're in their 60s again, like easily, you know? So I think those are my most rewarding patients, is seeing someone who has like really sagging jowls and, you know, they literally get vacuumed up by these leeches. And not only does their face look thinner, but their eyes sparkle. Like they've got, you know, that over those 100 different biochemicals in that saliva just helping, you know, increase more lymph and blood flow. So one patient who I was doing the aesthetics treatment for noticed that her smell was better, which is a good indicator that, you know, that's some nerve regeneration going on because of better blood flow.
That's absolutely amazing. I mean, it makes sense from a Chinese medicine perspective, but still, I mean, I mean, even acupuncture, I'm amazed on a daily basis that the work just does such good things for folks. And
Right.
I am looking at the time going, oh my gosh, our conversation has to be up already. But oh, Nidia, I could be chatting with you about this for quite a while, but thank you so much for taking the
Thank
time.
you.
I so appreciate it. And I appreciate that you're out there helping women feel better about themselves and helping them get healthier in mind, body, and spirit. So thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Dr. Box. Have a good one.